Let's see if he improves today. Here we go. The men's equaliser is underway, and Henry Schoeman is into the water. It'll be a long 11-second wait for Vincent Louis as Schoeman just disappears by himself into the distance. Louis, the Frenchman, on 11 seconds, and he's into the water. Next up, Jonas Schomburg and Igor Polyansky together, 4 seconds back.
These two are going to slow each other down there. So they're going to go hard to get on Vincent's feet, but they're swimming next to each other. You want, out of anything here, you really want clean water. There's Johnny and Ben Canute. I'd expect Ben Canute to go straight on Johnny's feet here. I imagine they'd have had chat and how can we work best together. The two behind them, Berger and Sharp, they're going to be just doing everything they can to stay in touch with those guys in front of them. But that 11 seconds, Schoeman back to Vincent Louis, that's quite a long way, you know. I mean, we can see there's very, very clear water behind them. We saw in the women's before this, we saw gaps of 4, 5, 6 seconds being made up relatively easily, but 11 seconds is a completely different picture, to be honest, and it's going to be fascinating to see how hard they go in this first bit and how much can happen in the... But those three there in Louis, Schomburg and Polyansky, they're together already, and you can see the gap back there to Johnny's on the front. I can see stroke a mile off with 2 different arms, and Ben Canute behind him doing everything he can to get in touch with the three guys in front of him. That wasn't an offence. I was just saying.
We didn't even get to the first point yet, and already you're criticising your brother.
It wasn't. I won't be critical. I'm just saying I can spot him.
He's got funny right arms.
He's got 2 different arms.
Swims. But if anything, he's got great company for this bike ride. That's a big powerhouse.
He's a faster swimmer than me as well, so I'll have my hands up.
This is great.
Yeah. See, Vincent is making inroads here.
Yeah,
that gap isn't 11 seconds anymore, and let's see if we can get a timing split around that first buoy.
It's not going to be
see
much.
what the
We'll
gap
count it
is.
up. We're going to do the old iPhone timing split right now as he turns the buoy, Henry Schoeman, and Vincent Louis leads Igor Polyansky and Jonas Schomburg in a little train behind as they try and negate the advantage of Schoeman, but he is such a strong swimmer. If you're just tuning into triathlon for the first time, Schoeman routinely leads World Series races out. Sometimes by so far he has to turn and look to see if he's turned the right way because he's so far ahead. He's a fantastic swimmer, and what an advantage that is when the traditional swim, bike, run format is implemented as it is today in the Equalizer.
So behind them in that big group that we're seeing passing around the buoy now, Ben Canute was leading, so I imagine Johnny's pulled off at some point. He must have had a chat to him before and said, if I take half and you take half, that's the most efficient way for us to go as fast as possible.
Yeah, that does happen a lot. There's discussions to be had in the locker rooms, if you like, beforehand.
Especially in this format, we saw it in the locker rooms, and the group that Johnny's in is a powerhouse bike group. They need to minimise or limit their losses, if any, to the guys in front. Work very hard in this first lap and close the gaps.
We just saw Richard Murray going around that final buoy there. That just demonstrates he's right in the middle of this group. He not only is a long way behind, he's having to scrap with some of these other guys. That is only going to slow him down on the course. He has got a lot to do. That is either Ollie Turner or
the two twins,
or one of the twins there who he's swimming with, and he is a big ask here as we see Ben Canute go out transition, Johnny with him. These guys are going to work as hard as they can now to try and get themselves back up to the front of this race to keep themselves in it.
All right, we'll see the split times as they cross, but at the moment Schoeman has retained a 10-second lead over Vincent Louis as they head out of transition and onto the bike for the first time. 1 second further back Polyansky, and then 3 seconds to Schomburg, and those 4 have got quite the advantage over the rest of the pack as it stands. It's a further 10 seconds back to Canute, Brownlee, Mislachuk, Matt Sharp, the 2 Canadians together there at 30 seconds. Leo Bergeret, always a dark horse, and Hayden Wild.
That big group lost time to Schoeman on the swim, whether that
3
was...
seconds.
I don't know why that was. That's Schilling down.
Schilling has gone down.
It's not
normally we see that on the bike, but it's slippery there on the black carpet. We saw Johnny have a couple of slips there on the bike as he came in on a tighter line to everybody else, so maybe that just claimed Schilling there as well.
Be good to see what's happening at the front of the race now, and see. We just saw Murray there leaving transition on his own and isolated. I don't know if that's because he's dropped Schoeman just at coming into the front of the end of the first lap there, going around that bottom corner. And that group, there was 3 there in that group behind him, and now there's only 2. I'd be surprised if one of those wasn't Vincent Louis, and probably Schomburg with Polyansky gone missing somewhere, but we'll see. That just shows that the pace is really on here. This field is separating out and spreading as we go along.
All right, Richard Murray, just an update on him. Of course, he won the Eliminator. That's why we're focusing on him. He's taken the 25 points, and it's all about the best out of the 50 points on offer for the
That is
weekend is Polyansky behind Louis.
I was wrong.
Hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, I think Louis is obviously riding as hard as he can here, and that is a hard ask to follow for anyone to follow Vincent Louis' wheel on this kind of course. And maybe he has better legs today. He didn't look great yesterday, and he said that himself. We called it a few times here in the commentary, but Schumann will be controlled. He's on a time trial here. He doesn't have to make any spikes in effort. He can ride a good, consistent race. And that might mean nothing. It might mean Louis gets back in the race, but he just conserves energy for the back end of the race when the run's on.
And Igor Polyansky sticking to Vincent Louis' wheel. He knows that's the train to the front if it's going anywhere. He saw him go through transition with the big grimace.
There is the short shoot at the top of your screen, the first black turnaround there, and our athletes have a chance to use it on the bike or the run at any time during this race. So they'll have 2 bike legs, 2 run legs. They have to use it once. Well, they don't have to use it at all, but they get to use it once, and there are the 2 turnarounds. So it gives you about a 5 to 6 second advantage.
Murray's completely isolated here, 59 seconds down on his own, with people 5 seconds behind and in front of him. So he's really not in a great position. It's going to be a big ask for him to get himself back in contact now. Schumann at the end of the second lap, and we see Vincent Louis is getting a bit of daylight between him and Polyansky maybe. He's just going to be riding hard, focused. I don't think he's going to look behind him for anything from Polyansky here. He just knows he has to focus on doing what he needs to do, and that is catching Henry Schumann right now.
All right, an update on the points. If there's 25 as maximum points on offer for day 1, 25 at day 2, we add them together for a score out of 50, and that is your round winner, and $20,000 goes to the winner, 15,000 to second place, and 10,000 to third. Henry Schumann currently is on 18. He finished third yesterday. Vincent Louis on 21 by courtesy of finishing second yesterday, and Richard Murray, who's a minute down, took the 25 points. So it's really a race at this point between Vincent Louis and Henry Schumann, although there's a long way to go in terms of our overall round winner. And
These
there
guys,
is our championship leader at the moment, or a round leader.
These guys behind, in terms of Canute, Brownlee, Johnny and Matchard, they're not working together at all. Canute has come through every time 3 or 4 seconds in front of Johnny, so that shows that group isn't working that well. Ben Canute is just riding as hard as he can with his head down, and they're not working particularly well together, which is maybe what they need to get themselves back up to the front. That said, they're not losing any time on Henry. This race is just an every man for himself time trial now, really, and that is basically what it is. Everyone's riding as hard as they can to try and get themselves back in contact, and there's not really any tactics come into play here, apart from the potential to run the short shoot when you need it. Any of these guys on the course, you'd be tempted to potentially use it if it meant that it got you back to the front of the race again.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Vincent Louis have a look across at Henry Schumann there. He would have bridged that gap had he had taken the super shoot. We will keep you updated on who has taken it and who hasn't taken it, because it will play in. And at the moment, the back of the field, as we saw in the women's race, has started taking it. Oliver Turner has taken it, João Pereira, Jack Felix and Jaden Schofield, but they're all over a minute back and in danger of being eliminated, and they know that. That's why they've taken it now, to try and negate the advantage of Schumann and Vincent Louis, who have been powering away at the front.
I'm actually impressed with Schumann here. He's holding his own with the fast chasing Murray behind him. So he's doing with Louis behind him. He's doing a really good job there, holding Louis off. Still at that 9 seconds. I think it's since 11 seconds going into the swim. It's been 9-10 seconds since then. So it's really going nowhere, and he's doing a good job. Where Louis, you can kind of get the feeling he's powering hard out the corners, like we can see there. We just see the differences in the style. Schumann. More controlled, winds it up gently, more of a time trial kind of format, and it's working for him. He's going round these laps as fast, but probably using a little less energy, I feel.
And Louis has to be very careful to control his effort, because that climb yesterday we saw with Ben Canute attacking a lot, he paid for that late in the race, and I think Louis had the mindset of getting across to Henry as quickly as he possibly could, but it looks like it's actually extending.
Murray's still at that 58 seconds down, so he is making no inroads at all. That Schilling has been 5 or 6 seconds in front of Murray in 11th place in all the laps, and he will be doing all he can to catch him, and he hasn't managed to. So I think he's probably had to swim hard on his own that he doesn't do normally, and he's riding as hard as he can, and it's going to be really, really hard for him to get back in this race.
Schumann still hasn't taken the time to do the straps up on his shoes. Obviously doesn't need to worry about that as he has undone the straps, is what I meant to say, and we're into transition once again. Here we go. We'll see the split times again. He is by virtue of being at the front, has picked the...
Decided to
he's
change
changed his mind.
He's changed his position, so his bike's on the other backwards so he can grab it quicker the next time. And apart from that, a pretty decent. Louis has decided not to bother with that. He's French. He's decided it's not worth the hassle, and he's going to do it the proper way. Yeah, you said it yesterday.
I'm getting my own back this time because you called me out on it.
And yeah, I mean, otherwise a very clean transition, and we can just see Polyansky and Schomburg have gone back through the groups and are now in this main group of guys behind them. So they've lost. They're the big losers in the bike leg of this race.
All right, let's see out of this group who has a good transition. Polyansky's been caught up by a group. Mislachuk's had a good transition, and so has Johnny Brownlee. Leo Bergeret's trying to chase them down, and Hayden Wild still coming into transition as well. So Tyler Mislachuk's having a good end to his season, and he leads that group of chasing athletes right now, and there is some quality amongst them.
These guys have got to run as hard as they can now. They don't really have a choice. I mean, absolutely not max, because then you're going to dive in the water and not have a lot left, but they've got to run hard to get themselves back in the race. So I'd expect that group, I think of about 6 of them, to split up as you see the guys who are slightly better runners get a bit more of an advantage on the guys who aren't behind them.
Here is the pack turning at the bottom of the hill while our 2 leaders disappear in the distance, and we saw that great running style of Henry Schumann. He's worked so hard at that. He's managed to lead wire to wire in WTS Series racing now, and that's a rare feat. His run is excellent, and you can see lurking in the background our championship leader in the pink, Vincent Louis, and just how far back the rest of the chasing pack are. You can't see them at the bottom of the hill.
They're still about 30 seconds back still, or spread out over that. And who's going to use the super shoot now to get themselves back in the race? Because
it's one of those things. Do you take the super shoot and isolate yourself from the group?
Or do they talk to each other and go,
we all take it together?
Take it?
Because you need to eat into this lead now. You know you've only got the opportunity on the bike coming up in the second portion of this event, because on the last run where the women took it, it sort of nullified it.
I think Vincent Louis will launch himself down this hill if he possibly can now and get a few more seconds on Henry Schumann. These guys behind them aren't making any inroads on the run. Although, see, he's leaning back. He's not really flowing. He's not sprinting down that hill. So, whereas Vincent, completely different. Yeah, the speed is completely different.
They're going to take it. They're all going to take it together. So there's Johnny Brownlee in red at the front, Ben Canute behind him, Tyler Mislachuk's there, Igor Polyansky's there, Jonas Schomburg's there, and they've all made the decision to take it and try and get a little bit back on these 2. This is 1 and 2 in the championship, and 1 and 2 in this race as well. Neither of them had a win yesterday. Richard Murray stealing it.
I think Vincent will have caught Henry, or very close to caught by the end of this run, and he'll be able to get himself back in contact on the swim, which is crucial. Yeah, these guys, and we see Richard Murray moving himself through the field.
The super shoot as well.
He's keeping himself in contact at all he can. So, yeah, as we thought, this group of 6 or 7 guys is splitting, but not as splitting as much as you thought. You know, Ben Canute's still there, Leo Berger, not renowned super for their run. So, they are there, and that means that, I think it's on, basically. Johnny can't really use his really quick running because he's already on the red line.
Jonas Schomburg there trying to catch up to that group, but Johnny Brownlee, in that classic style of his that he's got, is trying to push as hard as he can. 3 seconds through transition between Schumann and Vincent. We'll see.
He's on.
Yeah, he really is, and we'll see how far back the group are after having taken the super shoot, the whole group of them, having had the discussion that we predicted that they might do. But it looks like by this turnaround, Vincent Louis will be your race leader, or perhaps not then. By the top of the hill, we'll see how much he's got. So 23 seconds, the gap back to Jonathan Brownlee. So they took 6 or 7 seconds out of them.
Yeah.
But don't forget that these 2 are now the sole 2 of the leaders.
And the best swimmers.
Take it, and they're the best swimmers.
So they're going to dive in, and even if this goes down to 20 seconds, that gap is too big for these guys. There's no draft advantage there anymore. It's going to be a big ask for anyone to swim any closer to them, because they're going to be swimming fast. And Vincent is there in the perfect place. He's made it onto his shoulder. He's where he needs to be, and he doesn't need to do any more now for this. He just needs to sit there until they dive back in for the swim, sit on Henry's feet, and be ready to do what he needs to do in the back half of the racing.
Pereira out. He's been eliminated with the 90-second rule.
To be eliminated. One of the Schofields there, Luke, he'll be eliminated. Jack Felix, the other Schofield. Jaden, just making it good for me to make sure they're both eliminated at the same time, so I know that exactly who they both are.
It's very considerate of them.
And Oliver Turner as well. So in our championship standings, as it stands right now, Vincent Louis has 25 championship points. Henry Schumann has 21 championship points. These two are fighting it out now for the full 25 as we head to Mallorca. So this is key, this battle. And Vincent Louis has put the hammer down again.
Yes. Just gives himself a few seconds advantage, and he's doing it running easier than Henry is as well, because he's just allowing his legs to go into kind of free fall, and it could prove absolutely crucial this to the whole race.
The longer stride on Vincent Louis, and that's the difference between them. But don't forget, after this triathlon is done, swim, bike, run, we have swim, bike, run again. These two will plunge into the water, and you can see the goggles around Schumann's neck as tactics come into this one. And there's Richard Murray, who is still 52 seconds behind. He's alongside Andreas Schilling.
Yeah, this is this group behind that actually hasn't split as much as I thought. Yeah, these guys have managed to keep themselves in contact, and Hayden Wild's there as well. He's run all
the way on,
yeah. He's run himself on. He's done a really good job there. He came from behind them, I think, going out onto that run.
Yeah,
so
he was 10 seconds behind
10
Brownlee
seconds
going through last time, so he's made 10 seconds up.
I think he must have taken the super shoot, I think. Is that come
Well,
up?
they all
did.
They
taken the super shoot.
He was behind them, though, so he's made it to catch onto that group.
All right, here we go, back into the water, past the cafe, and past Michael Brown, one of our race directors, and into the water.
So Vincent's dived in first there. Is Henry going to swim round him and push this on, or is he going to energy conserve a bit and just tuck in there on the feet? And at the moment, he's in there on the feet, and maybe he might decide, actually, I'm only racing Vincent now.
Yes.
You know, the other guys are out it. This is all about me and Vincent. So I'm just going to concentrate on energy conservation and doing what I can to beat him in the back half of this race.
And Vincent's made up 11 seconds over a swim, bike, run, so that you have to pay for that at some point. So if Henry can be a little bit more conservative, tell that to himself in his head. Say, okay, let's relax. He's got to back himself on this run, and in the running race, he's lost, 2 from 2 against Vincent Louis.
Yes, Polyansky and Schomburg have just started at the front of the field and gone backwards there.
Well, they haven't managed to separate themselves from each other. They're just as close as they were at the beginning. After one of our sprint triathlons, Andreas Schilling, and behind him somewhere, I know in front of him there is Richard Murray.
So I think he's actually made a bit of time up there at the back end of it. So he's done okay, but yeah, he's back on the swim again. He's back on his weakness, and so he's probably only going to lose more time on this swim again. And his chance, I would have thought, of the top 3, definitely the top 2, is completely gone now. So this big group behind them, actually, which again probably just relatively slowing each other down. That's Michelchuk on the front, with Johnny behind him. See Ben Canute's stripes and stars there on his right arm, or his left arm, right as we see it.
And Hayden Wild on the
left. Yeah, so
and Leo Bergier. That's a big group. That's a strong group. But the two up in front are definitely going to move quicker in the water. They're our best swimmers. And I think they seem to move quicker on the bike. These guys were getting congested a little bit, and they've both got the super chute to use in front. So
they are the only two men out there that still have the super chute up their sleeves, Henry Schumann and Vincent Louis. So you can write them off at the front, but there's a lot of talent behind.
He's trying to make a move here on the outside. He's realised the pace isn't quick enough. And he's going, if we've got any chance of getting up to those guys in front of us, I need to move this pace on now. And he's decided to swim round Michelchuk to try and get up there. Michelchuk is going to swim straight on his hips and slow him down, which is completely the wrong thing to do, because you're just slowing. He needs to speed this up. He should be thinking, how can the 5 of us now move as fast as possible, not how can I make it as easy for me, to stay in this group. If he wants to have a shot at doing well in the race rather than just sailing around to come 4th or 5th.
We know that perhaps Schumann has 5 seconds on Vincent Louis in the water. Do you agree with the idea of staying on his feet the whole way?
Yeah, I think he's made the calculated decision there to go. Like Macca said, Vince has had to go hard in this first leg to catch that 11 seconds upon me. If he wants to take it on and keep it fast, let him do it, and I'll conserve a bit of energy.
Oh, trouble!
And that might just give me a bit of a chance in the final run. Yeah,
ironically, it was Vincent that put his bike in the opposite way. If you remember, that was quicker out of transition.
I think there was a bit of trouble there with the chin strap for Henry Schumann. Took a little bit longer.
Yeah, so
Johnny on the front.
Johnny and that's Ben Canute behind him, and Michelchuk's gone back through the pack again. So These guys, I think, they're definitely not losing much time at all. So they're still moving on the course pretty quickly, and but I think it's going to be tough for them to catch up. We saw Johnny really struggle with this in Malta, getting his feet on his shoes.
And wow, look at that.
Yeah, Vince is taking it on. He's taking it on here.
You can see it in his face too, going up a 275-metre climb at about 6%. Vincent Louis is doing it up out of the saddle as Henry Schoomer's been attacking it by staying in the saddle each time. We've seen that. Now he's up as well as he looks to respond and get back onto the wheel. He knows how strong Vincent Louis is, and we saw it in Jersey that if it comes down to a situation where there's 300 or 400 metres to run, Vincent Louis has one of the most famous kicks, and it'll be another Katie Zafiris situation.
You could do an interesting dummy here. You know, if you were in Schumann's position, taking the chute actually on the last lap of the bike, you know, a quick little dummy, get a gap and clear them through transition, and you're out. I mean, I know you've got the chute to take on the, not got it on the run to take there, but it might just give you that little bit of an advantage.
It just unnerved Vincent, because if it comes to the run, he's lost both running races against Vincent, and I think you've got to start thinking.
He needs to be able to take this on. We saw him just ride by his brand new fiancée, Franzel, who was proposed to by Henry on Tuesday here in Malta.
So the second group have actually lost time. You know, they dived in the water about 30 seconds. They're now split over 36 to 39 seconds. So they have lost time on those leading few. The two of them, although they're still together, but I think they've lost even more time on that first hill. You know, just kind of anecdotally looking, and you saw Johnny take a drink there on the downhill and sit up. So
they're looking at each other.
They're looking at each other. That showed me he's probably not. And actually, that Murray's actually close to coming back into it. So if those guys there sit up too much, Murray's going to come back through.
Yeah, that's a real question when it comes to the minor placing, the third position overall and the $10,000. Johnny is currently on 16 points from yesterday. Tyler Mislachuk on 14, Leo Bergeret on 12, Ben Canute on 10, and Hayden Wild on 8. So they'll have this battle amongst themselves, and each of them will know exactly what they need to do in order to take third spot, if indeed they agree. And I think that we can all agree that at the moment it's a race in two at the front for the top two placings. And then Richard Murray's the wild card because he took the top 25 points from yesterday. So where he can end up, if he can cross that gap as well, might see him end up with $10,000 for third spot. So there's plenty of tactics and plenty of thought to go into this, as those guys, especially that group 30 or 40 seconds back now, need to jostle for position when it comes down to that last run.
Well, Murray's only 18 seconds back on that group, and he's going to probably, if he really goes for on the last run, he can catch a few of those, and he's got full points from yesterday. So I think if we look at the overall space, it's going to be hard to see him not manage to get into third place in the overall standings.
He just needs to bridge that gap. You think he can do that?
He doesn't need to do it on the bike. He just needs to pick a few of them off, whether he does that on the bike or the run. Because you've got the points go right down as you go back kind of through the field, so the gaps aren't as big. So the difference between 4th and 6th actually isn't necessarily that significant. And there he is. You know, he's doing everything he can to get.
He really is.
These guys in that pack are looking at each other, and Murray is using that to advantage and coming across the gap.
His transitions are magnificent. He can close that gap really quickly. He has to be quickest on course outside the two in front. He's made up 50 seconds. These guys were 40 seconds in front.
He'd be still about 50 seconds behind at this point.
Take these two out of the equation, and you're looking at Johnny and the boys.
For sure.
Take these two out of the equation. He's been the quickest.
Yeah. And here they are, though. What a race we have at the front. Vincent Louis and Henry Schooman, 3 laps through of the bike, and Louis is a renowned bike handler on this course, probably not as technical as the one we had in Jersey, but still he's very strong on the bike, and Henry Schooman staying with him, and here's our group of 5 behind. Hayden Wild, their second last. Ben Canute, who has been just so his engine, Ben Canute, when if he doesn't maybe not have the top end speed of some of the other guys in this shorter course racing, he's a longer course racer, is fantastic.
Yeah, he's got a great engine. He's very fit, technically good on the whole, and he just commits to the racing. He's like, I'm here to race. I'm not here to be a passenger in this race. I'm here to do. These guys are starting to look at each other a bit tactically now. They don't really want to take it on. They know it's going to come down to the run. And Ben Canute, he races clever. He knows he's not always a great runner, so he races with that in mind, and that's why he gets some really good results.
Hayden Wild at the front of this chasing pack, who are still 40 seconds back, but are fighting out for competition points. And they're at 2 leaders. You couldn't split them all day. 11 seconds was the gap as they jumped off the pontoon first up, and that was as big as it's gotten all day, without a doubt, as our women look on and enjoy this spectacular racing from Super League Triathlon Malta. The last time through transition on the bike, they're out into lap 4, and it's Vincent Louis, currently our championship leader, versus our second place in the championship, Henry Schumann. And nothing has separated the two of them, and I have no idea what's going to happen. I guess I have to go. Well, I don't know. What's your prediction from this point, gentlemen?
It's hard to bet against Vincent Louis, but I think you don't know. Schumann has produced some good runs. You know, he ran him relatively close in Jersey, actually, and Vincent has had to catch up that extra gap. And he looks laboured. You know, we didn't see this much in Jersey with, you know, his face actually looking like he's really going hard, whereas Schumann does look very composed, to be fair. So I think it's hard to call, and it's going to be, who knows whether he's thinking about the overall picture as well, and keeping an eye on where Murray might be or might not be.
Well, at the moment, we still have Murray to come through our timing screens. The top 7 have done all that, down to Canute at 42 seconds back. So Murray's still trying to bridge that gap to that group of 5 led by Hayden Wild, with Brownlee, Mislachuk, Leo Bergeret and Ben Canute. But these two are just stuck together, and we have a lap and a half on the run to go in this men's equaliser, and it is going to be an absolute cracker. Cannot wait to see these guys run it out on that uphill finish, as well as we saw in the women's. And Super League Malta has turned it on in a big way, and they're enjoying some world-class racing.
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating last run here. The transition is going to be crucial again. You know, giving up a couple of seconds when you're already right on that red line is not what you want to do. And it's not what Henry needs. You know, that could have been a few seconds. I think you can see they're both pretty tired. You know, they're not.
Henry's going to come out first. Here he is, just.
But Vincent right on the shoulder, just nothing to separate them at all. It'll be good to see if Murray's made any more inroads. It's down to 14 seconds on that lap. What can he run himself onto the podium from here, both in the in this one and for the overall? But yeah, they're focusing on the front. I would expect to see Vincent Louis is going to sit on his shoulder. They've both got the super shoot to take. They're going to go around that super shoot, and he's going to go for it on that downhill.
Yeah, he's done that all day.
Yeah.
And Henry Schumann will know that too, because he's seen it happen to him multiple times already over the course of this one. And here is our group coming in, and a good transition here will help. Don't forget Richard Murray, quickest in transition easily over the course of this year. That was a great transition from Johnny. But Hayden Wild has managed to come out in front.
Can Richard Murray, how many of these guys can he run down? You know, if you can run all of them down, he's on the podium. If you can only run a couple of them down, that could be crucial when it comes to the overall standing.
Yeah,
so
it all depends on positioning of those 5, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yeah. Louis is actually taking it on a bit. I didn't expect that. I thought he's hurting. He's
hurting, isn't he?
Yeah, he's looking down.
And it's around this time in Jersey, if you remember, that Henry Schumann kicked. And he kicked a bit early.
We're missing it, but he's kicking now. The camera. Yeah, there you go. The cameras go back.
Now you're directing as well, Ali. Thank you so much for that. We head back to the front.
He's got the head
Brownlee taking over the telecast. And Schumann, he kicked a little early in Jersey, and he'll remember that, and he was in exactly this position, and he got run down. So the question is, when does he go now? He's hurting Vince. Look at his face.
Vince just if he gets his turnaround, he knows he needs to get to his turnaround
and use the downhill
to get back on and recover. And if he can do
Schumann
that,
knows that too, so he needs to give himself a little bit of a gap, and he's done that.
Vincent will launch here. He has to
get himself back in touch, because he's already. But it's hard running downhill as if you're already in the red as well, because you just haven't got it. But
he looks a little bit less, a little bit out of order in his upper body, but he's closing the gap.
Yeah, he's closed that down to what he needs to. He just needs to. He'll be thinking, get round this corner, hang on the flat bit, and give it all I've got in that last uphill sprint, 40-45 seconds.
All right, there's 3 who've managed to break away from the back 2, and they might be caught by Murray. We'll keep an eye on that.
Vincent's gone to the front here, and that's purely to try and slow Schumann down, I'd imagine. He knows if he can get to the front and he doesn't have to cope with a kick out of that corner. Look, he's running up against the barrier.
He squeezes him off there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he
uses every trick in the book. We saw him do that same thing in the swim with Tyler Mislachuk on Schumann's feet yesterday. He's a very tactical racer, all within the rules.
And he's going as hard as he can. Yeah. He knows if he was behind Schumann has sensed that a little bit more. He'd hear the hard breathing, he'd hear the labour of labouredness of his breathing, and by being in front, he's controlling the pace, and he's also not quite showing his weakness to Henry.
I'm calling Schumann.
Me too.
I think he looks a lot more comfortable on that hill. Vincent Louis put his head down. He was saved.
We did that with Summer Cook 2 hours ago or an hour ago. Katie Zafiris came back.
But what did he say in Jersey? He said if it gets to the last 400 metres, it's
good
over.
luck. Yeah, well,
it's over.
So
we'll find out.
We'll find out now, won't we? Yeah.
I just think on that climb...
He'll appreciate that you bringing that up if he can't in fact do it, but Schumann's back on the front now.
Yeah, he's going out. I think this could be Schumann's move, though.
Yeah, it's too early, I think.
Yeah, I think he's going out hard. Louis is just counting down the metres now. He's going, get me inside the last 300.
Yeah, there's almost an air of inevitability.
But it's not a flat sprint.
It's not a flat sprint.
It's an uphill sprint finish. He had his head down on the climb. He was really grimacing, and... Henry's got to... Oh, wait, well, this is going to be so interesting.
He's got himself on the
shoulder.
He really has.
He's on the shoulder.
This is a match race.
Vincent Louis, we've got 200 metres uphill to decide who will win the men's equaliser, and it is neck and neck. Henry Schoeman of South Africa, number 4 in the blue. Vincent Louis, number 29, and here he goes. He kicks, and is there a response from Schoeman? I don't think there will be.
Schumann's given up.
He has.
He's given up.
He has, and he was right, and the look of pain on Vincent Louis' face, and he heard your commentary, Alan. He thought, I have to back it up now, and he's done exactly that. Vincent Louis, he punches the sky. He's happy, and well done. What a race from Vincent Louis. He'll take the win. Henry Schoeman gave it absolutely everything he had to stay with him. Led for large portions of this one, and these two have been dominant over the course of Super League this whole season. They are 1 and 2 in the championship, and they are 1 and 2 today.
We've got a race on for third place here. It's between Michel Schuck and Johnny.
Let's go back to the action if we can.
We'll see them coming up the hill.
This
is Murray. He's done all he can to get through the field, but there's 3 or 4 people in front of him.
Schomburg gets eliminated. Where's 3rd and 4th and 5th? That's the question. Brownlee fighting.
Here we go.
There he is, and the fight between Brownlee and Mizuchuk, and Tyler Mizuchuk is going to do it for 3rd, and that could change things. That could change things. Well done for Tyler, and you can see what it means to him as well. Johnny Brownlee gets 4th, Hayden Wild 5th, and there's another sprint on at the back end between Leo Bergeret and Ben Canute. Bergeret will get it. He'll get it, and there is congratulations. Every one of these guys has given everything they've got, and the mutual respect is huge. Canute comes through in 7th.
With Richard Murray just off the back.
Look at that gap. They managed to hold off Murray, and that's going to hurt his chances of a 3rd spot on the podium. Richard Murray, he'll finish in 8th position, which means he'll add 8 points to his 25 and end up on 37.
That's tough racing. Very tough racing. Tyler Mizuchuk had a great day yesterday. Great race today. He'd be very happy with the round.
Yeah, he is a good race today. He paced it well, and he was there when he needed to be at the end. From his start position, he stayed in with those guys when he needed to be good on the last run. He obviously had it. Hayden Wild as well in 5th place. He's had another good result there and a good day. He should be really happy with that.
I think if my maths is correct, which it usually is not, Vincent Louis will be your round winner, and he'll add 25 championship points to the 25. Look at the pain on the face of Richard Murray. He has worked as hard as he possibly can.
He's had a hard day out there.
He really has.
He's basically had to go max for the entire thing to try and get back on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the ceremony for Super League Malta Day 2 Equalizer. Today we have Lionel Gerarda, Head of Events at Malta Tourism Authority, presenting the medals. In 3rd place today, from Canada, Taylor Mizuchuk.
Good for him.
Silver medalist today, from South Africa, Henry Schoeman. Race winner for Super League Malta Day 2 Equalizer, from France, Vincent Louis.